Hello everyone, welcome to our tutorial for our Love Around the World tiered tray set. We're going to start off with some simple just painting of some of our 3D pieces. I have these pieces painted with the Antoinette pink, and I'm going to just do these two to give you a quick demo. I'm using a makeup wedge, which we include in your kit. I have a small amount of paint on it. Not a whole lot. You don't need much paint. I'm just doing an up and down dab, dab, dab to get that covered. So that's all that takes. With your tiny little pieces such as this word, I am doing the exact same thing. Fairly dry brush. I didn't even load any more paint on there. Turning it around, just holding it with my fingernail and doing the rest of it. Okay. So those pieces will be added to several of our sections here, such as our world. I did the back of the globe with some metallic. I just put it on with a very thin coat. I used the baby wipe method with our French linen in rubbing it on. You could dab it. I prefer to have a thinner coat and see some of the wood grain. You could also sand this a little bit. And then all of my words are done here in the pink, just like I showed you with the world. You can arrange them the way you would like them to be and go ahead and glue that together. This kit will come with a stand so that you can rest your circle on the stand. You could use the baby wipe method and maybe with the French linen for your stand as well. So that's that piece. The love letters, I just did the V. The background I had painted white and I sanded it. So I sanded off quite a bit there. You can kind of see the wood grain through there. So these would get glued on here just like so. The heart is engraved. And you can do this two different ways. I'm going to show you both of them. If you're going to use a painting method, you want to make sure that whatever you're using is extremely dry. So I have that same makeup wedge. There's barely any Antoinette on there. I'm going to actually even wipe it one more time off of there. And I'm just going to go in an up and down motion. We don't want to clog up that engraving with any paint. So even if I have to do this twice, I'm better off to do a very thin coat and not lose my engraving pieces. So let me grab a little wee bit more. Okay, so just like so, and that piece would get glued right here. As with any of our kits, you do not have to use the color combinations that I used. Perhaps with the world, you might want to do the background in white on this as well, and maybe use the French linen for the words or the pink for the land. I did these color combinations because it matches the garland that I had already previously painted. Then we also have a rectangular sign. I painted it first with the metallic and then I added a little streaking with the pink and just kind of wiped it off. I did all of my words in white and I did my frame in French linen with the baby wipe method. So those I can go ahead and glue together. When you're doing any of these tiny little pieces for your gluing, you always could use white glue if you choose to instead. You just need to make sure it's dry before you move it. With the super glue, when I'm doing some of the tiny stuff like this, sometimes I squirt out a little bit of super glue onto a paper plate and just dip the back of my piece in the super glue and then put it where I want. That sometimes is a little bit easier than putting drops of it on the back of the piece. But again, we use minimal super glue. You just need to be cautious when you're using it so that you're just adding a few drops here and there so it doesn't get on you and it doesn't squeeze out on your project. So that is the third part of our kit. We also have a tag in this kit, And the tag has engraving as well. I put metallic on the little circle. We had already painted our heart with the pink. I used the baby wipe method on this, and I'm going to show you that just right now. I have a garland, which is the 5th piece of our kit, and the garland does get our little hearts on it. So you end up with the heart, the garland, or the engraved part, another heart, and then 2 more pieces. So what I would do with the baby wipe method, especially with these, I'm just using an ordinary baby wipe. You could use a wet paper towel as well. I'm getting a tiny, tiny little bit of my French linen paint. I'm actually going to start on the one that's not engraved, and I'm just going to wipe this on. When we baby wipe or faux stain, we're not trying to cover it completely as if it were painted. We will see some of the wood grain through. You can use a clean part of it to even make more of the wood grain show. Now that I took a bunch of paint off my baby wipe, I'm going to do carefully the same thing with my engraved piece. I'm just going to go across it to give it some color. I'm not pushing down. I don't want to get any in those engraved pieces if I can help it. If you do, you can sometimes use a dry bristle brush to kind of brush some of that out of there before it dries. So there we are with our garland pieces. Your kit will have twine that you can put your garland together with. Your tag will also have a piece of ribbon. And when you go to put your ribbon together, what I like to do is keep it folded in half. I put it through, of course, this is going to be glued. I put it through my hole and I pull it out. This would be easier if it was already glued together. And I take my ends of my ribbon and go into that loop and do it like so. Okay, so you've got a little piece of ribbon in your kit that will go on your tag and that will get glued together. Again, you're gluing your letters onto your love piece. Your world will have a round stand, and your rectangle sign will have a one of our little quarter round pieces that you can stand it up on the back as well. The other thing that you can do with this, if you want to add a little extra interest, is to use some of your extra metallic paint. I'm just going to grab a little bit with my foam brush, which if you've watched me before, I like to go up and down with the side of the foam brush when I'm doing any kind of my pieces. For instance, I'll just take this. If I were going to do this whole thing metallic, I would just go up and down. Right now, I'm just going to kind of add some to the edges. That gives a nice little extra detail. And I'm just barely touching it around the edge of my heart. Okay. You could as well do kind of a sweeping motion, like so. We did this on our banner. We just added a little bit of that metallic by taking our brush and coming across our piece to just add a little bit more color to it. So that kind of coordinates nicely. And again, you can swap up these colors. Maybe you want your tag and your back of your banner pieces to be white instead. You'll have all 4 colors in your kit, and you can paint them however you would choose. So there are the pieces for our Love Around the World tiered tray set. Thanks for joining me.